What's up, guys? We are back with a big Week 6 of college football picks for Saturday, October 5th. Week 5 went pretty well, guys. We went 5-2 overall. We had Kansas State -5. That one came through for us. Wake Forest -3.5. That was a loss. They just got off to such a bad start in that game. Tried to make a big comeback, but came up a little bit short. We had TCU at +2.5. That was a win. Unfortunately, we did have the under in that Georgia-Alabama game, guys. Lost that one, obviously, in an insane game, but we were also on Alabama at +2.5 in that one, so they came through for us. What an absolutely barn burner of a game that one was. We also had Illinois at +18. A lot of people in the comments were saying that might be a trap. Maybe it was a little bit too good to be true. We were a little bit scared ourselves, guys, but Illinois +18 came through for us as well. We finished the day off strong with SMU at -6.5 to cap off a very, very nice 5-2 day. So absolutely nothing wrong with that, guys. We've got a great video for you today covering 13 games and giving you my best bets on the side and over-under on each game. If you want to win all of your bets here in Week 6, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the value of the early lines. You can also now sign up for a channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members get exclusive early access to all NFL and college football videos and get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that badge next to your comments absolutely warms my heart. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering MLB, NCAA Football, UFC, the NFL, and they are now dropping the puck on the new NHL season here on Sunday. NCAA Football has been one of our most profitable sports over the years, and we have a seasoned expert capper over there that has been killing it so far this season, going 20-8 against the spread over the last 3 weeks. Click the link in the description if you're interested in signing up, and also to sign up for our free email list to get the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. The email list is also where we will keep you updated on our $100,000 to $10,000 challenge with new bets going on this weekend. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today, and we'll give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got number 9 Missouri going on the road to take on number 25 Texas A&M. Missouri comes into this game undefeated on the season, guys, 4-0. The last couple weeks, though, things have looked a bit more sketchy. They got a very close 27-21 win over number 24 Boston College, and then last week, guys, Vanderbilt gave them all they could handle. We did see Mizzou come away with the 30-27 win, but definitely a closer game than many would have anticipated. I mean, a double overtime game. Crazy stuff there. We saw that Mizzou offense continue to look good. I mean, Brady Cook doing his thing out there. 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. Good stuff there. The running game was also nuts. Noel went off for almost 200 yards rushing. They had a rushing touchdown as well. So very good stuff there. This is a talented offense. Absolutely no doubt about that. Going to be one of the better offensive teams, maybe even in the SEC this season. We'll have to see, though. It's very early days still in terms of, that. In terms of their defense, definitely some problems showing up. They didn't do amazing against the passing game. Gave up 146 yards on the ground, so that's a bit of a concern as well. Just not an amazing defense, but not a terrible defense. Got to give them a little bit of credit. It was a double overtime game, and giving up 27 points isn't too crazy, but obviously they'd like to do a little bit better. They did generate, a couple fumbles. Unfortunately, Mizzou didn't recover any of those, so they didn't generate any turnovers in the game, which is a little bit concerning. In terms of their opponent here, guys, they're going to be going up against the Texas A&M Aggies, who come into this game 4-1 on the season. They've been undefeated ever since taking that tough Week 1 loss, losing 23-13 against Notre Dame. Last week, they had a little bit more of a test there going up against Arkansas. They won that game at 21-17, so pretty solid stuff there to come away with that win against a decent opponent, no doubt about that, but maybe not the Aggies' best game out there. I mean, we saw Reed look okay. He only completed half of his passes for 163 yards. He did pass for 2 touchdowns, so that's nice, but not really super high on this guy right now under center. At least, reason for concern. Moss, however, looked amazing in the running game. We did see Reed run for a touchdown as well, so 3 touchdown day. I guess I really shouldn't be ragging on the guy too much, but just wasn't necessarily what I would term a dominant performance. So we'll see what we get out of him here going up against Mizzou. The defense there for Texas A&M, only giving up 17 points. Very, very good stuff. And generally speaking, this has been a good defensive team this season. I do think the Mizzou Tigers are probably going to be the best offense they've faced so far. So a little bit of a test here. And, last week they gave up a decent amount to the pass, didn't get gouged too bad by the run. But overall, I definitely think the Aggies would like to be playing a little bit better defensively. They only forced one turnover there last week. So some positives, some negatives. But I think generally speaking, Texas A&M has to feel okay with where they're at this point in the season, guys. And looking at the numbers for this game, guys, unfortunately, we can't give out a side on this one. This is a premium pick over at stumpthespread.com. So get over there, check that out if you're interested. We're going to take a look at the over-under here, and we've got some trends. We actually have Mizzou. They are 3-1 to the under this season. Texas A&M is 3-2 to the under this year, with a total of 48.5 out there, guys. Not a massive number, definitely not a massive number, but we're leaning towards the under, actually. Both teams, when they play against decent opponents this season, have played pretty low-scoring games. We had Mizzou against Boston College. That was a 27-21 game. We had Texas A&M against Arkansas. That was a 21-17 game right there. So two pretty low totals. Go ahead and give me a small lean towards the under in this one. Next on the docket, guys, we got the SMU Mustangs going on the road to take on number 22 Louisville. SMU came through for us last week. Very, very good stuff there. They demolished the Seminoles, winning 42-16 in that game. Their only loss this season was an 18-15 loss against BYU. So a very tough loss there against a very, very good opponent. That loss is honestly looking better and better as the season goes on. Last week against Florida State, we saw very, very good stuff from the Mustangs. Really no room to complain. I mean, Kevin Jennings looked very good. 3 touchdown passes, 254 yards passing. Excellent stuff there, no doubt about that. But that wasn't even the peak, guys. The peak for this team was that running game. Absolutely dominant. Brashard Smith looking crazy out there. 17 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown. And the dude's longest carry was only 20 yards. So just every rush, he was just making it work, putting up some positive yardage. So great stuff there. In terms of the defense, they looked pretty good. They generated 3 interceptions in the game, so that's great. Obviously, some of that has to go, at the feet of the Florida State offense and their quarterback not being very good. But regardless, very, very happy with what we saw from SMU there last week. Very good stuff in the win. So we'll see what they can do here going up against a much tougher opponent in the Louisville Cardinals, who come into this game fresh off a 7-point loss at number 16 Notre Dame. So a bit of a tough look there for Louisville, but before that, they'd been having a pretty good season, albeit a little bit untested. I mean, a win at Georgia Tech isn't exactly going to cause me to think your team is suddenly destined for the college football playoff, but still, guys, some positive things. Last week, we did see Slow not get off to the best. I mean, he had 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception. He passed for 264 yards, so that's pretty nice. He ran for 36. The Louisville running game didn't do amazing, but you have to take into consideration they were going up against a very, very strong Notre Dame defense, so definitely deserve some credit there, no doubt about that. Turning the ball over a total of 3 times, though, is going to be tough to overcome, and that's what they did last week. On defense, they looked decent. They did give up 2 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns, so not ideal there. They didn't force any interceptions, but they did recover a couple fumbles, so they generated some turnovers of their own. I don't think this Louisville defense is terrible, guys, by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're decent, although giving up 31 points to Notre Dame, not the best offensive team out there, maybe a little bit of reason for some concern to creep in. So, guys, looking at the numbers for this one, we've got the Mustangs at +7. We've got the Louisville Cardinals at -7. We've got an over-under of 56.5. Last week, SMU demolishing Florida State definitely feels good for them. A confidence-building result, no doubt about it. The Mustangs have improved on offense since going with Jennings at quarterback full-time. That's been very positive. SMU, they are 3-2 against the spread and 3-2 to the over this season. Louisville, 3-0-1 against the spread and 3-1 to the over as well. So definitely some over trends in this game, guys. And if you wanted to take over 56.5, I could get on board with that. But my main lean in this game is going to be the SMU Mustangs at that +7. I think that's a very good number. Obviously, getting to 7, a key number. Would be nice to have a hook, but hey, we're not complaining here. We'll take the 7 points, and hopefully we're going to take that all the way to the bank here with the SMU Mustangs definitely going in the pinned comment. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Army Black Knights going on the road to take on the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. The Knights come into this game. Army's been looking very good this season. They're 4-0, not taking on maybe the toughest competition, but they have been making easy work of it, guys. A blowout win over Lehigh, a very solid win at FAU. FAU, a blowout win over Rice, and then last week demolishing Temple 42-14. Very good stuff from Army in that game. This is a team that just knows how to get it done, guys. That running game, that option, like just insane stuff. 5 rushing touchdowns last week. Yeah, they had 2 guys rush for over 225 yards or over 125 yards each. Just crazy stuff out there. This team just keeps coming at you. There's very little you can do. I mean, it's seeming like they've upgraded a bit in terms of, the overall talent level on this roster, and they are just absolutely cruising here in the early goings, and that defense is looking much better. They completely stifled the run against Temple. Not that Temple had too many opportunities to try to establish the run, but when they did try, it was not there, and the passing game didn't look great either. They only allowed 224 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception there, so pretty good stuff. Generally speaking, from the Army defense this season, I think it's been a very good season so far for the Black Knights. In terms of their opponent in this game, taking on Tulsa, they come into this game. They haven't had the best season, guys. They lost to UNT 52-20 last week, so a bit of an embarrassing blowout loss there, and haven't really had a good time this year. They got blown out by Oklahoma State. They lost to Arkansas State. That's not exactly a great loss, so definitely a team that we've got some questions about, guys. Last week Tulsa just couldn't really get anything going early on. They were down 24-3 going into halftime. The passing game looked terrible. They're still trying out different options there at quarterback. Don't really even know who they want to go with. The running game did get some positive things done, so that's nice. Will they be able to run the ball here against Army, though? That seems like a very, very big ask to me. Their defense, just got completely destroyed by the pass last week. That's not great. They also didn't do well against the running game. Didn't generate any turnovers. Just a very, very weak looking team here for Tulsa. So looking at the numbers for this one, guys, the Black Knights, Army there, they are -11. They're the favorites in this game. We've got an over-under of 50.5. Army, guys, they've been dominant on both sides of the ball through their 4 wins. We feel like Tulsa, quite a bit overvalued, and I mean, we faded them last week there in the premium plays, and they got dumpstered by North Texas, so that worked out. Army is 4-0 against the spread this season, 3-1 to the over. Tulsa is 2-3 against the spread, and 3-2 to the over themselves. Guys, you could talk me into an overplay here at 50.5. I think we'll see plenty of offense from this game, but I think almost all of that offense is going to come from the Army Black Knights. Give me Army at -11 in this one. Another play going into that pinned comment. I think Army is in a fantastic spot here to take advantage of a Golden Hurricanes team that just is not very good. Hey guys, jumping in here with a quick ad break. First of all, this is a great time to sign up at StumpTheSpread.com. Signing up for a premium membership gets you access to our entire team of cappers covering MLB, NCAA Football, UFC, and the NFL. If you just want to test out the service, a great way to do that is by joining our free email list, which will get you the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Just to clarify some of the questions we've been getting, I'm not the NCAA Football capper for StumpTheSpread.com. These YouTube picks are obviously free to everyone and are just what I'm seeing out there. We have an expert with nearly 15 years of experience that covers NCAA football, and the research he puts in keeping track of all of these teams is actually wild. His in-depth knowledge has made college football one of our most profitable sports, bringing tons of value to our premium members. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new, and become a channel member for early access to all of our NCAA football and NFL videos. Now, guys, back to the games. Moving right along here, guys, we are looking at the Iowa Hawkeyes going on the road to take on number 3 Ohio State. The Hawkeyes come into this game. They're 3-1 on the year. They did take a tough 1-point loss there at Iowa State, but other than that, they've been playing well. Last week, they got a very solid win over Minnesota, winning 31-14. Good stuff there. I wouldn't say Iowa necessarily came into this season with super high expectations, but so far, I would say so good. We did see, the quarterback play there for Iowa, maybe not amazing, but overall, I feel like the offense has improved. That running game is absolutely elite. Will they be able to run the ball here against Ohio State? We'll have to see, but they're sure going to try. That is obviously going to be the main focus of this offense. And I mean, Caleb Johnson rushing for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns last week on only 21 carries. Very, very encouraging. Obviously not the same level of competition they'll be facing this week, but definitely got to give them some credit there. In terms of their defense, I mean, well, first offensively, we want to look at the fact they had 0 turnovers last week. That's nice. And on defense, they only allowed 14 points, 2 interceptions in the game, so good stuff there. They stifled the Minnesota running game. Didn't give up too much to the pass either. I think this Iowa team is definitely given not quite enough credit here so far this season. They are playing pretty well. Going up against Ohio State, though, going to be a tougher task. The Buckeyes Hawkeyes are undefeated this season, but they really haven't faced any significant tests. I would say probably their toughest test was last week playing at Michigan State, and something of a rivalry game. They won that one 38-7, so obviously dominant stuff there from the Buckeyes, which a team that's supposed to be one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the nation this season, that's what you need to be seeing them do. They need to be taking care of business against these, somewhat weaker opponents, even when they're playing on the road. And they definitely did that. I mean, we saw the passing game look pretty good. We did see Howard get picked off once. Not ideal. The running game looked good as well. Maybe not insanely dominant. I mean, 35 carries, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. Good stuff there. No fumbles lost, but a couple times the ball did end up on the turf, so that's a bit concerning. On the defensive side, got to feel good about how Ohio State looked, only giving up 167 passing yards, 1 interception in that game, and they recovered 2 fumbles. So yeah, generating 3 turnovers is very, very positive stuff. But looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we see the Iowa Hawkeyes are getting 19.5 points in this one. So yeah, Ohio State, huge favorites at home. We see a total of 45.5 in this game. The offense is much improved, in my opinion, guys, on Iowa this year, and the defense is one of the better units in the Big Ten. They covered for us at Minnesota last week very, very easily, and we are going to be riding the Hawkeyes at plus 19.5 in this one as well. Both teams are 2-2 against the spread, so no major trends there. We also see both teams showing significant trends towards the over, so I think we're going to be leaning a little bit over here, mostly because of those trends. This is 2 pretty good defensive teams, so we'll see what goes on, but I definitely think Iowa and the points is very solid value, and I definitely think you could talk me into that over as well. Will this one end up in the pinned comment though? I'm not 100% sure yet. Moving right along here, guys, we are looking at number 23, Indiana, going on the road to take on Northwestern. The Hoosiers come into this game undefeated on the year, 5-0 so far. Haven't faced the toughest schedule, but a win over UCLA, a convincing win at UCLA, very good stuff there. And last week, they easily handled business against Maryland, winning that game 42-28. So Indiana having a pretty good time. They've made their way now into the top 25, being currently ranked 23. So very, very positive developments here in the early goings. We'll see what they look like here going up against Northwestern, but last week against Maryland, have to be pretty happy with what we saw from Indiana, guys. I mean, putting up 42 points, no small task. We saw the passing game look good. The major concern here was the turnovers, guys. We saw Rourke get picked off twice while passing for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad there, but you want him to take better care of the ball for sure. We saw the running game look pretty good last week as well. The 2 main backs there putting up, very reasonable numbers despite not breaking off any crazy long runs. Unfortunately, guys, we saw more turnovers. I mean, a total of 4 turnovers in a game, and you still managed to win 48-28 is impressive. 42-28 is impressive, but man, you have to be working on limiting those mistakes. The defense didn't do amazing against the pass. That's a little bit of a concern, but they were fine against the run, I would say. They didn't generate any turnovers, though, so that's a concern as well. Maybe not looking like a completely dominant defense right now, but we'll see if they can turn things around after what I would definitely term as a sloppy performance there against Maryland as they go up against the Northwestern Wildcats, who are 2-2 coming into this game. They haven't had a great season so far. I mean, they beat Miami of Ohio in a very close game in week 1, lost to Duke, beat EIU. Obviously, that's a walkover game. And then they lost last week, getting dominated there at Washington, not having a good time, losing 24-5. So we'll see if they can bring it back a little bit in this one. Not really expecting any miracles here from Northwestern. Just doesn't feel like they're a very good team. No decent quarterback play at all. The running game couldn't get going last week. They just really did nothing in that 5-24 loss. Very, very embarrassing stuff. They turned the ball over twice. Just not a great team in general. The defense couldn't stop the run or the pass, and now they have to go up against a relatively tough opponent in this one. So looking at the numbers for this one, guys, we see the Hoosiers are minus 13.5, so we've got that under 2 touchdowns. That's pretty nice. We were definitely liking them at minus 14, and now we like them even more at minus 13.5. The Hoosiers, quietly one of the most improved teams in the Big Ten this season under their new head coach. They've moved into the top 25. We are extremely low on Northwestern, especially in terms of their offense. And yeah, Indiana should be able to separate on the scoreboard very easily in this game. Indiana is 4-1 against the spread this season and 4-1 to the over. Northwestern only 1-3 against the spread and 3-1 to the under. A clash of styles here in this one. If you're asking me for an over-under play, I'm not really sure which one I like. I would maybe lean a bit towards the over, but definitely liking Indiana here at minus 13.5. This play, no doubt about it, guys, is going straight into that pinned comment. Next on the docket, we're looking at the Auburn Tigers going on the road to take on number 5 Georgia. Auburn comes into this game not having a good time. 2-3 on the season. They've really lost to every decent opponent they've faced this season. Last week they did play a close one against Oklahoma, losing 27-21. But man, you got to be putting some wins up on the board. Things are looking pretty bleak here from Auburn. Already 0-2 in the SEC. Last week against Oklahoma, they just could not get the job done. They were losing. They were winning at halftime, 14-7, but could not hold on there late. The passing game looked a lot better. Peyton Thorne definitely did some good things. 338 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, but got picked off once. The running game also looked very good. Really no major bones to pick here with this offense except for that 1 turnover. That's pretty costly. You got to hold on to the ball. On defense, guys, they were dominant against the passing game. They did okay against the running game as well, but not amazing. So we'll see, what kind of numbers the defense can put up here. They didn't generate any turnovers, which is obviously, not ideal, but this has been a decent defensive team, I will say, or at least they were decent last week, but man, just not enough there, losing that one 27-21. Yeah, a pick 6 will really, really sink the ship for you there. Rough stuff, but it's not getting any easier for them this week, guys. They are going to go up against one of the most motivated teams in college football this week. They're going to be taking on the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah, they lost last week in the most insane college football game in recent memory, guys, losing 41-34 at Alabama. Absolute barn burner there. That knocked them down to 5th in the nation, but I think this is a team that's going to come out extremely motivated for this one. Yeah, in that loss at Alabama last week, rough stuff there. We saw Beck do some good things, 3 touchdown passes, 439 yards, but some real bad things, getting picked off 3 times and fumbling the ball away once. You cannot be turning the ball over 4 times in a single football game. That is not going to work out for you. The running game didn't get a ton of work there from Georgia, as this was such an insane game. They got down so big early, but yeah, this was just an absolutely insane game. They had but very few answers there on defense. Gave up a lot to the pass, a lot to the run. They did generate 1 interception, but man, Georgia lost this game because they turned the ball over a ton. So definitely something they're going to be looking to address in this game. They've been an amazing team all season long, and looking at the numbers for this one, guys, we see Georgia up to -24. They're 24-point favorites in this game. We've got an over-under of 53.5. Auburn, guys, they are 2-3 against the spread this year, 3-2 to the over. Georgia is actually 1-3 against the spread this season and 3-1 to the under. Guys, I am not scared off by those negative trends there for Georgia against the spread. I am taking the Bulldogs to get the bounce back win and cover in this one. After that disaster last week, I think they're going to be massively motivated in this one. I know beating a team like Auburn by more than 24 points seems a little bit crazy, but I think we can see this Georgia defense come out, maybe pull out a shutout in this one, and I do think we're going to see I think we're going to see Carson Beck probably not throw 3 interceptions in this game, which will easily put them in a position to possibly win. If you want to over-under play on this one, I would maybe side a little bit towards the under, but really not one of my favorite plays out there today. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a little bit of a deep cut. We are looking at Miami of Ohio going on the road to take on Toledo out there in the MAC. Miami, Ohio comes into this game fresh off of their first win of the season. They got that 23-20 win over Mass. So yeah, good stuff there. Definitely a much needed win after lining themselves up an extremely rough non-conference schedule there to open the season, playing against Northwestern, Cincinnati, and then number 17 Notre Dame. Yeah, the Redhawks were actually fairly competitive in most of those games. Pretty good stuff there, playing Northwestern and Cincinnati very close. They did lose 28-3 to Notre Dame, but they caught Notre Dame at the absolute worst time, so that was a bit of a rough look. Last week, guys, against Massachusetts, we saw some pretty good stuff. I mean, Miami ended up winning that game in overtime, so it was obviously a very close game, but this Miami of Ohio defense, definitely no joke there. We saw the passing game not look amazing, but the running game is definitely all there. This is a very good running team, and the defense, like I was saying, very solid. Only gave up 9 of 22 passing. Great stuff there. They struggled a little bit against the run, which is definitely something of a concern, but I do expect them to continue to be very good here on defense. This is a solid defensive team, no doubt about that. We'll see if they can hold up against Toledo, a team that's 3-1 on the season. They took the loss last week there at Western Kentucky. They've had some success this season. They do have a good win there over Massachusetts. That's positive for them. But yeah, a 38-23 win over Massachusetts in week 2. let's not worry too much about the shared opponent in this game. But right now, guys, looking at how they did last week in that loss against Western Kentucky, not the best stuff from Toledo. I mean, we saw them, Gleason threw 2 interceptions in that game. That's a bit rough. They also lost 2, and by they, I mean Gleason lost 2 fumbles in that game. You can have your quarterback turning the ball over 4 times in one game. You're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball. The running game looked decent, and that's something they're going to look to use against Miami for sure. Just the defense wasn't really amazing. I mean, despite them forcing 2 turnovers, 3 total turnovers, they still lost that game 26-21. They didn't have a ton of answers there in the passing game. They looked a little bit vulnerable to the running game, but not terrible. So we'll see how they hold up here against the Miami Redhawks. In terms of the numbers for this game, guys, we see Miami, they're plus 6.5 in this one. Toledo minus 6.5, and we've got an over-under of 52.5 out there. Guys, these are supposed to be 2 of the top teams in the MAC. We are buying low right now here on Miami of Ohio. After going through a tough non-conference slate, it's put up or shut up time for them, absolutely. And they came into the season with very high expectations. Now is the time to deliver. So I definitely think taking the Redhawks here at plus 6.5 makes a lot of sense in this game, despite the fact they're 1-3 against the spread this season. In terms of the over-under here, guys, we've got an over-under here of 52.5. That sounds like an awful lot of points to me. I think the under is a very, very good play in this game. In each of Miami of Ohio's last 8 games against non-ranked opponents, guys, we saw the under hit in every single one of those. 8-0, a very sick run there for the under. And Miami of Ohio 4-0 to the under this season. Go ahead and give me the under in this one. I also like Miami plus 6.5. One of those definitely going in the pinned comment. Next up, guys, we're looking at the number 10 Michigan Wolverines going on the road to take on the Washington Huskies. Michigan comes into this game fresh off of a very, very close 27-24 win last week over Minnesota. Yeah, they got the win. Got to give them credit. But at 4-1 on the season, that tough loss against Texas didn't look great. They played a very close game against USC that they ended up winning. But this last win against Minnesota, guys, very, very close. They gave 21 points there in the fourth quarter, getting outscored 21-3. Little bit sketchy there for Michigan. Seems like things might be slipping a little bit. Their quarterback play is absolutely atrocious. Clearly a huge, huge issue right here. And yeah, the running game really had to carry the load, but 155 yards and 2 touchdowns on 43 carries. Maybe not amazing, maybe not dominant numbers there. So a little bit worried there. Definitely worried about this defense giving up 24 points. Obviously, those 24 points weren't all on the defense, but still didn't have a great time against the passing game. Did okay against the run, but they weren't really facing much of a running attack there from Minnesota, who was down big in this game, so they pretty much had to be throwing the ball. But yeah, not in love with what I'm seeing from the Michigan Wolverines right now. And their opponent in this game, Washington, lost a really tough one last week against Rutgers, a game that they definitely could have won. We've seen some decent stuff from Washington this season. A good dominant win, actually, I would say, there over Northwestern, and they've done some good things, not getting blown out in any games this season, and definitely playing at home here, a team to take notice of. Last week at Rutgers, obviously a very tough environment to play in against a very tough opponent. We saw the passing game look very, very good. Will Rogers putting up 2 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. This kind of quarterback play is going to have this team pointed in the right direction quick, guys. He looked fantastic out there. The running game also looked amazing, over 200 yards on 29 carries. Great stuff there. They didn't turn the ball over, which is obviously a huge deal. In terms of their defense, they limited the pass big time. They did give up a bit to the run, so that's a little bit concerning, but generally speaking, have to be very, very happy with what we saw from Washington last week, despite the fact they came away with a tough loss. So looking at the numbers for this game, guys, it's a very interesting one. We actually have the Washington Huskies at -2.5. That's a number that's down. It was at -3. Now it's at -2.5. We have a lot of public money that's coming in and going to continue to come in here on number 10 Michigan. And guys, we are going to be fading that public money. I love Will Rogers at quarterback there for Washington. Michigan is only 1-4 against the spread this season. Washington is 2-3 against the spread. We also see that the Huskies are 5-0 to the under, so you could maybe talk me into the under here a little bit since it's 9-1 in Washington's last 10 games. But guys, I think the play on this one is Washington -2.5. I think they find a way to get the job done here at home, and fading the public in a big spot like this, definitely nothing wrong with that. Especially, you can even see in the NFL this season, the public is getting absolutely destroyed. So go ahead and give me the Huskies here at -2.5. I think think this is an excellent spot. You could even talk me into waiting and seeing this number is going to get even better for us as the game approaches. Next up, guys, we're looking at the number 11 USC Trojans going on the road to take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. USC comes into this game fresh off of a good win there over Wisconsin, winning 38-21, a nice bounce back after that tough 3-point loss they had at Michigan. So yeah, good stuff for USC. They're a team with aspirations this season, no doubt about it. We'll see if they're able to deliver on all that promise that they've shown at different points this season. Last week we saw Miller Moss have a very good game, 30 of 45, 308 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He did get picked off once, definitely a mistake that needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but yeah, the running game definitely is right there to pick up any slack they need. 161 rushing yards and a touchdown in that game for USC on the ground. Very good stuff there. Got to clean up those turnovers, though. They had 3 total turnovers in the game, and that is not the kind of mistakes that you're going to be able to get away with for very long. Eventually, that is going to come back and bite you. But didn't bite them too much in that game. The defense was very good, limiting the passing game, limiting the running game there of Wisconsin. They generated a couple turnovers in the game, too, so expecting decent stuff, at least, if not elite stuff, from that USC defense here as they go up against Minnesota, who comes into this game only 2-3 on the season. Really, those 2 wins were kind of walkover wins. Last week they did play Michigan very close, but the week before that they lost to Iowa in kind of a blowout. So yeah, not a team that necessarily comes into this game riding super high. Last week at Michigan, they really couldn't do too much on the ground, which, I mean, they were down in that game, so I guess they get a little bit of a pass there, but it's not like the passing game was that great either. They turned the ball over a couple times, so that's not great. And while their defense was very good against the pass, Michigan doesn't really have much of a passing game, and they're going to be going against a completely different monster here in the USC Trojans, who they can move the ball on the ground or through the air. Do the Golden Gophers really have what it takes to stop that? I definitely have some concerns. Looking at the numbers for this one, we see the Trojans are 8.5-point favorites. We've got an over-under of 51 in this game. Guys, we successfully faded Minnesota in their last home game, which turned into a 14-31 loss against Iowa. Minnesota made things respectable at Michigan last week, but we feel that was more of the Wolverines being terrible as opposed to Minnesota really being good out there. USC needs to prove themselves on the road, and they should be focused to try and grab their first Big Ten road win. I like USC to build on the positive momentum they showed in the second half against Wisconsin last week, where they outscored the Badgers 28-0 after halftime. Elite stuff there. We also see USC 3-1 against the spread this season. Guys, the favorite is 7-1 against the spread in the last 8 games Minnesota has played, and Minnesota is 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 home games against conference opponents. So yeah, go ahead and give me USC in this one. I think they easily win this game by double digits. If you're begging me for an over-under play, don't really have too much of a read on that. Maybe a slight lean towards the under, but really, guys, I just think this is a fantastic spot here for USC. Moving right along here, guys, we are looking at the UCF Knights going on the road to take on the Florida Gators. UCF comes into this game fresh off of a very weak showing there against Colorado. Not what we expected to see from the Knights in that matchup at all, but also wasn't what we expected to see from the Buffaloes either. They came out with a vengeance, looked really good in that game. UCF, though, guys, just couldn't get it going. They haven't had the best season so far, but it hasn't been a disaster either. Last week, it was the turnovers that killed them. 2 interceptions in that game, not a great look. Kind of cancels out 2 passing touchdowns, and they also fumbled the ball away twice. You cannot turn the ball over 4 times in a football game and expect to win unless you have a massive talent edge and you can just overcome those kind of dumb mistakes. So we'll see what they can do in this one. They did move the ball well through the air, move the ball well through the ground against a mediocre defense, I'll say, from Colorado. Obviously, this week going up against Florida might be going up against a terrible defense, guys. So we'll see about that one. But last week, didn't like what we saw from UCF. We find them in a bounce back spot in this one, going up against the Florida Gators, who they've been real bad this year. They did win last week against Mississippi State 45-28, but this has not been a good team this year. They got things off to a horrible start against Miami. You've basically got a coach that's coaching for his job at this point, and I don't think that's really going to lead to positive things, guys, because I'm not seeing anything I like here from Florida. Despite getting the win last week against Mississippi State, they're just not a very good team. Yeah, sure, you can look good against a terrible opponent. You can run the ball well, pass the ball well, yada, yada. They still managed to turn it over once, so not necessarily a great look there either. So not a squad that I am super high on this season for all the reasons that you would expect. And looking at the numbers for this game, guys, we've got UCF at -2.5 on the road here. Florida playing at home, we'll see what we get. We've got an over-under of 61.5. UCF was a massive disappointment last week, but we still feel like this is one of the more dangerous teams in the Big 12 when things are clicking with their elite ground game. That said, this is one of the more anti-Florida. This is more of an anti-Florida pick than a pro-UCF pick. Florida folded up at home in their two tougher games this season, losing by double digits to both Texas A&M and Miami. We expect UCF to recommit to the run in this game. I look for a big bounce back here. They are 3-1 against the spread this season and 3-0-1 to the over. Florida, guys, they are 1-3 against the spread. They're also 3-1 to the over. The trend's leading towards the over. Sure, go ahead and take the over if you feel like it, guys, but I think the play in this one is for sure to take UCF. I think they can control the tempo of the game a little bit. I think they're going to score basically at will in this one, so go ahead and give me the Knights on the road in this game. Rounding into the home stretch here, guys, we are looking at the Duke Blue Devils going on the road to take on the Georgia Yellow Jackets. Duke comes into this game still somehow undefeated on the season. I'm not sure how they're doing this, guys, but they're finding a way. They edged out UNC last week by only a single point. They've played some very close games against some very bad teams this year, so it's been weird, but hey, they're undefeated, so you can only say so much. Last week against UNC, it's not like we were in love with what we saw. Duke needed 14 unanswered points there in the fourth quarter to come away with the win. We saw Murphy look pedestrian in the passing game, completing significantly less than half of his passes for one touchdown. No interceptions, so give him some credit there. The running game was where Duke really got the job done, guys. I mean, Star Thomas looked very good in the running game. Will he be able to replicate that here against Georgia Tech? We'll have to see, but last week, definitely, no doubt about it, very good. We did see Duke turn the ball over one time. That's not terrible. And on defense, they generated one turnover of their own, so kind of canceling that out. They didn't look great against the run. They looked okay against the pass, but I wouldn't say elite, and it's not like North Carolina's an elite offensive team either. So yeah, Duke, not really a team, despite being 5-0 on the year, that I'm super high on. In terms of their opponent in this game, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they're actually 3-2 this season. They come into this game fresh off of a 31-19 loss there. They were playing at number 19 Louisville, so clearly not the easiest opponent there. We've seen them do some good stuff. I mean, they pulled off that week 1 upset against Florida State. Turns out that Florida State team, not so good. But regardless, definitely a few positive things here to say about Georgia Tech. Last week, they kind of held with a very good team. It was a 14-17 game going into halftime. They had a safety. Like, they had some things pointed in their direction there late in the game, but just couldn't quite figure it out down the stretch. But we saw them be very able to move the ball through the air, guys. I mean, Haynes King, 21 of 32 passing. No passing touchdowns, unfortunately, for him, but he looked very good in the running game as well. This is a team with a dynamic offensive player that can move the ball. That's something that you absolutely love to have in college football. And yeah, he did turn the ball over once last week against Louisville, but Louisville's a good team. We also saw Georgia Tech look very good against the running game, which could be very nice here. They needed to stop the run against a Duke team that really needs to run the ball to move it offensively, and I think they have the recipe to make that happen. So looking at the numbers for this one, guys, Georgia Tech -9.5 in this game. We've got an over-under of 55. Georgia Tech, they came through for us against the spread in their season opener against Florida State, but we haven't taken the Yellow Jackets since then, as a premium pick. We feel this is a good spot taking Georgia Tech at home coming off of a bye week as they try and bounce back coming off of their very competitive loss against a good Louisville team. Duke, that was a very emotional come from behind win against North Carolina last week. Feels like a trap game situation, something of a letdown spot here for Duke. I don't think they're nearly as good as their 5-0 record would suggest, although if you look at their opponents, it's really not that impressive. Guys, we are going to be going with Georgia Tech here at -9.5. I think they get a comfortable win in this game. They're 3-2 against the spread this season. In terms of the over-under numbers and stuff like that, you can maybe talk me into an under 55, as both teams are going to want to run the ball, at least in theory, I guess. So we'll see about that over-under, but really, guys, I think this is a great spot to be on Georgia Tech. Next on the docket, guys, we are looking at the number 8 Miami Hurricanes going on the road to take on the California Golden Bears. Miami comes into this game 5-0 on the season. They've got a couple decent wins in there for sure. They decimated Florida there in week 1, but yeah, last week a close win against Virginia Tech, winning 38-34, but hey, can't fault them too much. They managed to get the job done there in the end, but you got to be hoping for a little bit better play from a team that definitely has college football playoff aspirations, no doubt about that. Last week we saw Cam Ward. He did turn the ball over twice. Those are some of those problems those issues that you need to have cleaned up, but completed 24-38 passes, 343 yards and 4 touchdowns. So good stuff there. He ran for an additional touchdown, and we saw the Miami running game look solid in that one as well. They did turn the ball over concerning 3 times. Those were all on Cam Ward as well. So definitely mistakes he needs to clean up. On the defensive side of the ball, that's where some concern definitely comes, although the defense wasn't always put in great spots, but they gave up a lot in the running game there. Giving up 206 running yards, not great. And yeah, they didn't look amazing against the pass either. They did generate one turnover, but that's obviously not an elite type number. So we'll see what they can do here going up against Cal, who comes into this game fresh off their first loss of the season, losing there at Florida State. They had some interesting wins. I mean, winning against Auburn definitely looks nice. It would have looked a lot better if they could have finished that thing off there with a win at Florida State, but they'll take what they can get. 3-1 on the season isn't a disaster here for the Golden Bears. Last week against the Seminoles, they just couldn't get the ball into the end zone. I mean, Mendoza passed for over 300 yards. He got picked off once, so that's not a great look, but the running game did some positive things as well. The defense wasn't terrible, obviously giving up only 14 points. They only had that one turnover, and they generated a turnover of their own. They didn't really struggle against any particular aspect of the Florida State attack. I mean, you only gave up 14 points. They just couldn't quite get the ball into the end zone when they had the opportunity. So definitely something of a disappointing performance there for Cal, and they are going to be hoping to bounce back in this game. And looking at the numbers for this one, we see playing at home, the Golden Bears are getting 10.5 points. We've got an over-under of 54.5. Miami, they're 3-2 against the spread. Cal, 2-2 against the spread. We got mixed trends here towards the over-under. Miami's a big over team. Cal is a big under team. Miami survived a scare last week, so something of a bounce back spot for them. Cal's defense seems decent, but this is their first real test, I would say. Miami, guys, they are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games against non-ranked opponents. Cal is 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games as an underdog when playing against a top 15 ranked team. Guys, I don't think this one's going to go in the pin comment. I do think there's some reason to take a look at the Cal Golden Bears here at plus 10.5, but you could also talk me into Miami in something of a bounce back spot. I just think that Cal defense keeps them close enough in this game, and the fact they're playing at home helps as well. Go ahead and give me the Golden Bears as a very small lean in this one. And if you wanted to take a little look at that under 54.5, that makes some sense to me, under the prognostication that Cal is going to play good defense. Last but not least here, guys, we are looking at the absolute last game on the college football schedule there for Saturday. We've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders going on the road to take on the Arizona Wildcats. Texas Tech comes into this game 4-1 on the season. They won last week in an absolute barn burner against Cincinnati, winning 44-41. So a super close game. They haven't faced a lot of really tough tests this season. We'll see if going up against the Arizona Wildcats qualifies as a tough test. That has kind of yet to be seen, but last week we saw very good stuff from Texas Tech in the passing game. 251 yards to the air, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, we saw Morton complete 19 of 29 passes, so not amazing, but maybe most importantly, we saw him not turn the ball over. That's very key in these games. And yeah, we did see one turnover there for the Red Raiders via a fumble, but not terrible stuff. And the running game looked great. I mean, we saw Brooks go nuts, 32 carries, 172 yards, and twice he was in the end zone. So very good stuff there. This is an elite Texas Tech offense. That's kind of their calling card. The defense, on the other hand, very concerning. They gave up over 400 yards passing and 4 passing touchdowns. They did come away with 2 turnovers in the game, so that's really what this team needs. You give this offense a couple of extra possessions, they're going to find a way to put up some points. So very good stuff there. The defense, though, not really one that I am super high on, but we'll see what they can do here going up against Arizona, who's 3-1 on the season. They had that terrible loss there at Kansas State. They followed it up with a brilliant win there, 23-10 at number 10 Utah. A very good win, a desperately needed win there for Arizona in a huge bounce back spot, and they sure got it. So we'll see if they can back that one up with another good performance. Last week we saw some good stuff, but we saw some bad stuff. I mean, the running game looked very good. Passing game, turning the ball over, a bit of a concern, but only 1 turnover in the game, not the end of the world. Their defense gave up only 10 points, generated 2 turnovers, held down the run. I can't really exactly say they held down the pass. They had some trouble there with Singer. Any dynamic wide receiver, seems like this Arizona team might have some trouble, and I would say the Red Raiders have a couple of them. So definitely some reason for concern coming into this game. The Red Raiders quietly put together 3 straight impressive wins against decent opponents. Texas Tech has been highly impressive on the offensive side of the ball, like we were saying, and it'll be interesting to see if they can bring that, continue that momentum here playing on the road. Haven't been as high on Arizona as the general public has, and we faded them in their road game against Kansas State as a premium pick. Arizona grabbed a solid win against Utah last week, but this should be a tougher test for their defense against the Red Raiders, and I feel like this is a bit of a letdown spot for Arizona also coming off of that big win. Texas Tech, they are 2-2-1 against the spread this year. Arizona's only 1-3 against the spread. Guys, we are leaning pretty hard here towards the Texas Tech Red Raiders. You can get them at plus 6.5 still. That seems extremely reasonable. That over-under of 64, not really something I'm interested in. I would maybe shade a bit towards the over, but guys, Texas Tech, they are 5-0 straight up. This is not against the spread. This is straight up when playing as an underdog versus non-ranked teams. Arizona's only 1-4 in their last 5 games against non-ranked opponents. So, yep, give me Texas Tech here at plus 6.5, guys. I think they're in great shape to keep this game very, very close, or maybe even come away with a win. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.